Brian the Sci Spectator. In the later 90s and early 2000s, when I was working as a sales clerk at the late great Hollywood Book City bookstore on Hollywood Boulevard, I actually recall seeing you dashing about the neighborhood. I also observed many a Sea Org member who at the time we referred to as pod people in their cheap blue costumes, often clustered by the Hubbard Life Exhibition building a few streets down, appearing sullen and withdrawn while quietly chain smoking. It struck me then as now, and you've touched on this before, as to what a physically ill-kept and generally unhealthy lot the Sea Org is, given their lack of proper health care, poor diets, sleep deprivation, and overall impoverished lifestyle. To that point, I'm curious as to how end-of-life care is considered within the Sea Org. Is it reasonable to assume that they suffer shorter than average lifespans? Is there any data on the COS death rates? And how do they speak of aging? Is it ever openly discussed? Do they all expect to, as they claim Hubbard had, voluntarily discard the body? I can't begin to imagine what Sea Org funerals are like. Do they even have conventional funerals? Or just conduct hip hip hurrah parties a la LRH's thoroughly bizarre death briefing of 1986? Okay, hey Brian. End of life. Is it shorter? Is it reasonable to assume they suffer shorter than average lifespans? I think it depends. I don't have any census data, so I couldn't say for sure, but I think it would be reasonable to assume that, yeah. I don't have any information at all on Church of Scientology death rates. They don't publish that information. I don't know that they even keep it. And they don't really talk about aging a whole lot. It's, getting old, your body getting old. It's kind of like talking about your car getting old in the world of Scientology. Your body is a possession. It's something you own. It's not who you are. You have had trillions of bodies over the course of your life as a Thetan. So, it's very real to you right now in the life that you are living, that your body is getting older and all the creaking and groaning and all of that stuff that comes into play. And Sea Org members who get old enough that their bodies really do start to get decrepit or break down do get reduced medical schedules and do get some special compensation for that. Because, there are some very old people in the Sea Org at this point, and you can yell and scream at somebody all you want, but anybody feels like an asshole when they're yelling at old people. Anybody. I never saw anybody in the Sea Org who was comfortable with that, short of a sociopath, of course. And when I did see my share of sociopaths in the Sea Org, those are not the guys I'm talking about. Those guys get off on inflicting pain and punishment, and they don't care who they're giving it to. But the run-of-the-mill Sea Org member is not a sociopath. They are an empath. They are a true believer, right? Most Sea Org members actually are on that end of the spectrum. And that's why they're Sea Org members, So they don't want to hurt other people. They don't want to be running around, causing pain and suffering to old people. And everybody knows that old people have limited mobility, limited cognitive skills eventually. In many cases, obviously, not all of them. There's problems there, and these are real physical universe problems. They're undeniable problems. They don't go away just because you wish them away really hard. So you can push an old person for a single instance or two or three, but over time, they're just that you're just doing them and yourselves a disfavor because you're making them less able to get more work done over a longer period of time. And when that's your goal as a Sea Org member, that's what I mean by that, right? Really, the older people shouldn't even be in the Sea Org. Well, hell, nobody should be in the Sea Org. Okay, so do they all expect to voluntarily discard the body? Actually, they do. This was kind of funny. This made me want to answer this question because everybody in the Sea Org kind of secretly believes that by the time they get old enough to discard the body and that's not going to be of any use to them anymore, they'll be at the top of the bridge and they'll be able to do that. And they'll be this super spiritual Superman or Superwoman. And so, they do all have this vision of discarding the body. And I remember specifically one woman who said, yes, when me and my husband get to old age and, we raised our child and all that, then we're going to lay down on a bed and we're going to close our eyes and we're going to go off together and get new bodies. And I thought, oh, that's so sweet. And 7 years later, she was dead of cancer and her husband was raising their child as a single dad. So, nice fantasy, but I never saw it happen. And then as far as funerals go, yeah, they actually do have fairly conventional funerals, usually because they're a family who are conventional people, not in the Sea Org. Or they have a memorial service of some kind is actually usually what happens. Some Sea Org members who don't have family outside the Sea Org take care of this kind of thing will basically just get cremated, and there will be an issue posted about their life as a Sea Org member and Scientologist, and that's called In Memoriam Joe Dokes, right? Or Sally Sue or whatever, and that gets posted around. That kind of lets everybody know that they died and that they are appreciated for their service, and they are granted a 21-year leave of absence, and then they're supposed to report back to the Sea Org to continue their duty in their new body, right? So that's kind of how that goes.